Welcome to another edition of the Sundown series where we are still in the state of Illinois. Where today we will be talking about a town named Pekin, or Pekin. It's spelled P-E-K-I-N. I'm not exactly sure how it is pronounced. Illinois. And when I typed it in, I came across this article that was written in June of 2013. And the name of the article is called Pekin, or Pekin, wasn't always a welcoming place. And the imagery that they have on here, it says "for God, country, and home," and on it is a picture of a Klansman holding a burning cross in his hand while riding a horse with the Klan's robe covering the horse. Including in the, I'm gonna just call it Pekin. Including in the Pekin Public Library's local history room collection is an extensive file on a dark period in Pekin's history, the heyday of the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s. The file's contents underscore how much has changed for the better since then. The KKK attained prominence and prestige throughout the Midwest in the early 1920s and was established in Pekin by a vaudevillian and respected community leader named Oscar Walter Friedrich, owner of the Capitol Theater. Friedrich was a grand titan in the Klan, supervising more than 40 Illinois counties, and I bet you most of them were ones I've covered already in this series, and any upcoming ones I have when I'm still in this the state of Illinois. And Pekin was his regional headquarters. Included in the Pekin Public Library's local history room collection. I was about to read the same part twice, excuse me. In September 1923, Friedrich and two other Klansmen, Silas Strickfaden and E.A. Mesmer, partnered to buy the Pekin Daily Times, which thus became an organ of the KKK's racist and nativist propaganda. Much of the local history room file on the KKK consists of copies of Times articles and advertisements from the first half of the 1920s. Almost as rapid as his rise was the Klan's fall in the mid-1920s, due not only to organized social opposition to the Klan, but also to several public scandals. The Klan's fortunes in Pekin followed its national fortunes, and when the Klan fell into disrepute, the Daily Times nearly went out of business, and Friedrich had to sell the paper in 1925. A few other articles in the local history room's KKK file touch on the related subject of Pekin's reputation as a racist community, unwelcoming to non-whites. Given Pekin's past and reputation, sociologist James Lowen included Pekin in his 2005 study Sundown Towns, A Hidden Dimension of American Racism, which explores the phenomenon of U.S. communities that made it known to blacks that they had better be out of town by nightfall. Obviously, the history of the Klan in Pekin had a lot to do with their reputation, but a closer look at Pekin's history reveals that the reputation long predates the Klan's arrival in that town. For example, on July 24th, 1933, the Pekin Daily Times printed out a curious story at the bottom left corner of the front page with the headline, "Now it is explained why Negroes don't like in Pekin. Once upon a time, there were balls and chains." This story followed a news report of the preceding week, published at the bottom right corner of the Daily Times front page on July 21st, 1933, about a black man from Chicago Heights named James Davis, one of two blacks who had been arrested in Pekin as stowaways atop a C&IM box car. The news report, which utilizes derogatory racial language in those days, which we will not quote here, says Davis's companion went quietly, but Davis allegedly resisted arrest and attempted to escape. Davis was brought to the court the next day, and the judge told him, "The court, after carefully considering the cases, fixes your fine at $25 and costs, but fine and costs will be remitted if you get out of town. The court will give you 1 hour to get out of the best city in the state." Davis replied that he thought he could make it out of Pekin in 5 minutes. The follow-up story, which again uses racially derogatory language, shows an awareness of Pekin's reputation, observing, "There have been other stories about Negroes getting out of town in a hurry, one about a man that left that city hall in such a rush that he even forgot to eat his dinner. Other talks of Negro families moving in town one day and out the next, until it seems that there must be that indefinable indefinable something about Pekin that keeps her population almost wholly white. Illinois' population bulletin shows that there are few other cities the size of Pekin that have no Negro population. William Gaines, one of our two black men, who was porter at the Tazewell Hotel and has been here for 30 years, explains that non-existence here of others of his race by the fact that Peoria is so near and that Negroes in general prefer to live in larger cities. The story then relates to a personal recollection of Emil Schilling, one of Pekin's lifetime residents who remembers everything that has gone on here for the past 50 or 60 years. Schilling attributed the absence of blacks in Pekin to an incident that older men of the town had told him of when he was a boy. He was told that when there had been a gang of levee Negroes working at the crew on a river boat back in the days before the Civil War, 30 or 40 of them, that had gotten too much whiskey at 20 cents a gallon and had begun to carouse. According to this tale, the blacks were arrested and clapped in iron and were sentenced to 6 weeks of labor on the city streets dragging a ball and chain. So that goes back to that whole thing where they were talking about that title, ball and chain. Now I see where it came from. Schilling said word of that incident spread up and down the Illinois River. On a trip to St. Louis during the 1880s, Schilling encountered a group of black dock workers, and he asked one of them if he would like to live in Pekin. According to Schilling, the man replied, "No, sir, boss, no, sir. That town ain't no place for N-words." One of the most remarkable features of this 1933 Pekin Daily Times story is the complete absence of any reference to the Klan, even though the Klan's popularity in Pekin during the first half of the 1920s is obviously relevant to this question. This is a glaring omission that was probably intentional to the writer's part. While it's unclear how much weight should be placed on Schilling's recollections, his tale would suggest that Pekin's reputation as a community unwelcoming to blacks predates the Civil War. That would not be surprising given the fact that until the Civil War, Pekin was a democratic pro-slavery political stronghold. One of the important factors in shifting Pekin to an anti-slavery Republican stronghold was the influx of German immigrants around the mid-1800s. However, while the German influence was crucial in the shift of Pekin's politics, it also helped make Pekin less desirable as a place to live for non-German speakers, both white and black. As a result, the small black population and many other older white families moved to Peoria, according to an April 13, 1989 Peoria Journal-Star column by retired Peoria Journal-Star editor Charles Dancy of Pekin. The practical result of these cultural and demographic trends can be tracked. In the U.S. Census in 1900, only 4 blacks lived in Pekin. In 1910, only 8, and in 1920, just before the Klan arrived, a total of 31. In 1930, only 1. And in 1940, not a single black person was left in Pekin. And something tells me that today is probably reflective the same exact way. Now I'm going to pull this up right here. It actually says as of the 2010 census, its population is actually 34,000. I'm actually shocked considering what I just read. They said it's the largest city in Tazewell County and the second most populous municipality in the metropolitan area for Peoria itself. Let me see what these demographics is looking like. Okay, let me scroll down a little bit here and get to it. Okay, 96% white, 2.6% African American. I'm shocked. It actually, black people actually are the highest non-white group in that town, but it still is overwhelmingly palm colored. But I'm glad I was able to come across that particular article displaying their so-called humble beginnings as it pertains to this particular town. Excuse me. But same old when it comes to Illinois. I know y'all are probably anxious for me to get to the next state. Trust me, I'm anxious too, but it's a journey. I told y'all early on that going into this, Illinois was going to have the most towns in it. That should tell you everything you need to know about Illinois as a state. But this concludes this edition of the Sundown series. Hopefully you learned something from this. I learned something from this. This is basically what I'm doing this for. It's all educational. But with that being said, I will talk to you in the next one.